it's Haley from the blog Handy Homemade, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how my dad and my husband took two old wooden bookcases and turned them into built-ins. You may see that I am not in my normal filming space. I am sitting outside on my front porch. It is finally feeling like fall here in Mississippi, and so I thought it would be fun to sit outside and film. You can see behind me the pumpkins and the pillow that I shared in my Thrifty Fall Decor video, so I will link that down below if you want to check it out. But let's go ahead and get into today's video. So we purchased our home about 6 months ago, and when we did, the entire house was so dark. You guys, it was red and purple and blue, and I knew immediately that I was going to change that. I was going to make it light and airy, and I wanted to start with the mantle. That was the very first thing that we painted. I want to tell you a little bit about it prior to us painting it. It originally was this type of brick, which is just a multicolored brick. We eventually plan on painting the exterior of our house. I'll probably do a blog post and a video on that when we get to it later on this year or early into next year. But the owner before us had painted the mantle already. It was a deep red. She had also left behind two wooden bookcases on top of the brick. It originally was a open fireplace where you could build a fire inside of it. The owner and her husband actually did not want an open fireplace, so they bricked it in. They put a pipe in for a wood burning stove, and they used that for many years. When my husband and I purchased it, they did not disclose whether or not they had done that themselves or if they had paid somebody to do that. So we had toyed with the idea of putting in a wood burning stove. However, our chimney runs through our attic, and if that is not done properly, then you run the risk of a fire breaking out in your attic and burning your house. So we were doing the renovations ourselves, and we didn't want to pay for somebody to come out and check it or fix it. So I found this gas mantle on Facebook Marketplace. I think I paid around $200 for it, and I ended up spray painting the gold pieces just a matte black with a fire resistant spray paint. I will actually link that down below for you guys if that's something that you're interested in. Once we measured out everything and had our mantle, I knew I wanted shelves on either side. I didn't know if I wanted floating shelves or if I wanted to reuse the bookcases. My dad and my husband painted the bookcases in the brick, and once that was done, we put it all together, and I knew immediately that I did not like it. With it all being together, it just looked like three separate pieces of furniture were stuck up on this wall, and I didn't feel like they flowed the way that I wanted them to. And that is when my mom had the idea of matching out the molding and turning them into built-ins. So the first thing that I did was take a picture of the molding on the mantle. Went to Lowe's, found something very similar, if not, it's almost identical to it. And we brought it back and let the boys get to work. They started out by taking the molding that was already on the bookcases off, as well as the arched piece on the front. I knew that I liked the arched piece, so I decided that I would keep it and we would see if we could reuse it later on. My dad and my husband from there measured out and cut two pieces to put on the side of the bookcases. This way it could build them all the way up to the ceiling and make them look like built-ins. My dad had to put in a nailer board. Once it's painted, you can't even really tell that it's there, but if you don't like the look of that, you don't have to have it. He did that to ensure that it wouldn't fall apart if somebody bumped into it or if it wobbled. So we went ahead and attached the nailers just to sure up the bookcases. Once the nailer was attached, they added back the curved pieces. And once those were attached, they got busy measuring out the molding. So they ended up using a miter saw to cut the molding for an outside corner at a 45-degree angle. There's many YouTube videos on how to do that. You can also use a miter box and a saw, which is fairly cheap at hardware stores or even Lowe's or Home Depot. If you can get your hands on one, that might be a route that you take. Once they were done cutting the molding, my dad actually stenciled out the design of the ceiling trim so that the molding that they cut for the built-ins sit flush against the ceiling trim. Instead of notching out a piece of the ceiling trim and sliding it in, he ended up taking a jigsaw and cutting out the outline of the ceiling trim in the molding that was going on the built-in so that they would sit flush and I could just caulk the gap. Okay, so here are the pieces that we added to bring it all the way up to the ceiling. We added the front arch piece that used to be on this one when this was the top box, but we brought that up. I did not do a back piece. I left the brick peeking through. I really like the way that looks. Here's the nailer piece. Now, yes, you can see it, but I really think once it's painted, you won't be able to tell. As well as here's the corner molding that we've done. This is what I was talking about the ceiling molding. I did not want my dad or my husband cutting into this ceiling molding and sliding this in. I wanted it to be two separate pieces and for us just to caulk that to fill it up. So my dad traced this out and then used a jigsaw to cut this edge so that it would fit flush against each other. And then I caulked it. So now once it's painted, it'll look like one solid piece. But that way, if I ever decide to take this down, I won't have to replace this molding. This molding will be one whole piece like it's supposed to be. So once I put everything together, I ended up picking up some very thin trim to run down the fronts so that you couldn't see the seams. Painted everything. I caulked all the holes, all the gaps. It gives it a very seamless look. And once it's done, this is what we ended up with. I'm just so happy with the way that these turn out. I think they're beautiful and they just make everything flow nicely together, and I'm really excited to decorate them for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. But I hope this just shows you that with a little ingenuity and creativity that you can do just about anything. If you want more information, you can check out my blog post down below, as well as anything that we use material-wise. I will try to link everything down below. And I hope you guys have just a lovely day, a lovely week, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. And until next time, friends.